Okay, hi. Welcome back to another Plusma-cast. I'm Paul, and today I have is Brian Gomez, the owner-operator of Merdekarya,
Oh.
and also among his other credits is media man, songwriter, artist, musician, and probably a lot more that you'll explain lah.
Will
once
do,
we go
will
on,
do.
right?
Yep.
Okay, so first is thank you, Brian, for helping to feature on this episode.
Sure. Thanks for having me here.
Okay, and as usual in Plusma-cast, what we do is we cover the journey of your experience from your first ideas to how you got your skills to how you became professional in this. And having covered that, so let's start from the very beginning. So
Sure.
what was music your very first idea that you get into?
Well, not really. To be honest, I was in advertising for many years. So I was in advertising for, let's say, 12 years. And what I had done is I'd saved up enough money to take some time off.
Right.
So I took a year off and tried to figure out, there were a lot of things that I wanted to do, especially with regards to writing. So in that year, what I did was I wrote my first novel, which is called Devil's Place. So writing was the first thing that I did.
Right.
But having said that, I mean, all these other disciplines, for example, film, music, novels, they all begin with writing. So because I was a writer by profession, I had all these many different ideas in relation to writing, and sometimes that medium of choice will be a short story. Sometimes it will be a novel. Sometimes it will be a song. Sometimes it might be like a movie script or something like that. So the idea that interested me the most at that time was the novel.
All right.
So I wrote Devil's Place first, and then after that, I also had like several songs in the bank, and I decided to do that as well.
Okay, you had a professional skill in writing, to which you applied it to advertising for quite some time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, was there an even earlier start to say, how you got into it?
I think it had always interested me from the time I was a kid. I think about 7 years old. My mom would show me like things I'd written at that time. So it was probably inevitable that I ended up in this line. So after school, what I did was I became a freelance journalist.
Okay.
Did that for about 3 years with the NST.
Right.
And then after that 3 years, I went into advertising. So whatever I've done with my life, it's always been, writing has always been there.
Your core expression.
Yes, it's been there in some shape or form.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I never trained professionally in it. But I just, after school left and started writing.
Okay, when you picked up the skill of writing, okay, whether it's whether it's a creative expression or a means of professional work. I mean, so was it just a matter of experimenting, or did you have a teacher to somehow guide you to say, okay, this is how you properly craft a piece?
Not especially. I think my parents would help me write like for assignments in school and stuff like that. And then you had your regular teachers and stuff like that. But I think the main thing was that when you read a lot, you tend to develop that your writing skill by noticing how different people craft their different stories and things like that. And it's listening to music as well. I mean, if you pay attention to the lyrics,
right,
you tend to see how different people craft their lyrics. So I think it was pretty much like all these factors. So I've never had like a formal education or like that one person who specifically taught me that this is how you write. I think it was just many different factors, many different influences.
I mean, it's sort of like you absorbed what was to be learned about the craft of writing.
I think so. I mean, I'm not deliberately. I think it was, I've never like consciously thought, okay, well, I'm going to read this for the purpose of learning from it. I think what you do is you just read. I mean, and then at some point you realize, because it's your profession, that you've got to craft your own style. You've got to figure out your own way of doing things. So that's pretty much, I think, how it came from.
Okay, so after quite some time in you could say advertising profession, and then you made that step into writing your own book, and then from there on into other personal projects. So so the point I'm trying to ask you is that, okay, so you've taken that, some would say a brave step to launch your own projects. What was the influence that, what was the influence that made you figure, I can do this?
It pretty much was just the most interesting thing I could think to do at the time.
Right.
Because I knew I wanted to do something.
Right.
I didn't know what. And the most interesting idea was the novel at the time. And then I had done the novel, and I had all these other ideas in my head, and I thought, well, let's just try this and see what comes of it. So I don't recall it being like, okay, I'm going to sit down and try this project or something like that. It just was what what I felt like doing. It was just what the idea that it most appealed to me at the time. Yeah.
Right. So it's a little bit more like something was nudging you to go this way.
I think so. I think it was. It's like, let's just try this and see what happens. And see if something comes of it. Because for every one idea that works, you have 9 that you start and then you think, well, nothing's going to happen with that. So yeah, it's pretty much like a natural selection of ideas. It's the strongest ones survive.
I mean, I come from a design background, and we are kind of taught the same influence the same process that you just work it out, throw it out there, and if you've gone through like probably a dozen or at least a few to find out, okay, these don't work.
Yeah.
But it builds into something that does.
Yep, that's true. Yeah.
Okay, so from writing, it's still okay. So you got your book, but it's still another, you could say, journey before you got into music, right?
It was. Well, the thing is, I had been playing in bars and stuff like that, like cover songs and stuff like that, typical bar bands and stuff like that. But then I had my own music as well.
Oh.
But the thing about playing in a bar band is that you can't really play your own stuff. You've got to play what the crowd wants, which is your current top 40 hits and stuff like that. Yeah. And so my partner and I, we said, well, let's see if we can open up our own place where, and we knew a lot of the songwriters and the independent musicians as well. So we said, well, let's try and open up our own place where we don't have to have those people dictate to us what we can play. And that's how it came about, really, Merdekarya.
Okay, but now looking to go that path, it's both its own challenge versus, you could say, like, on the one hand, a bar gig is you could say a continuous workload, and at the same time, you understand there's also a limitation of your expression, which prompted you to open Merdekarya. But there's also that you could say a risk.
Yeah, of course. There's risk in pretty much everything you do. But the thing is, I've been in advertising for about 13 years.
Right.
And during that time, you develop like contacts and skills and stuff like that. So I still had my freelance job. So I still had worked on a project basis.
Right.
So financially, I think, especially at the start, it wasn't that big a deal. I mean, what takes its toll on you is the time,
right?
Because you work in the day and then you work in the night. So that was the main problem I think that we faced, was that it was just doing too much. But then eventually, this started to become more viable financially. It's not totally financially viable, but more, and so I could cut down on the day job.
Okay, so let me just cover a few things about on the process to Merdekarya. So that one is you mentioned that you wanted a space where you could perform your own music.
Yeah.
Okay, and things like Putra Bhumi, and a few other your personal songs. So this genre, this theme or this purpose to be an independent expression. I guess the point what I'm trying to ask is that what is the objective? Is it just a matter of being able to find a space for your personal expression, or is it or you do have a goal to go big?
Well, no, not. I mean, you see, to understand the independent music scene,
right,
is that for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much in its infancy.
Right.
10 years ago, there were hardly any venues that would do it. Now you've at least got about 4 or 5, including us.
Yep.
And so the purpose really is, yes, it's to give a platform for all the musicians to, have their own work out there and to freely express themselves. But it's also to make the cake bigger, create more awareness that independent music does exist, because there's lack of awareness of that there are even all this many musicians in the Klang Valley. So the challenge, I think, for us is to get more people to understand what it's about and to come out and discover local music, because the problem with our art scene is that you've got maybe 500-600 people who habitually go out and seek local art, but it's the same 500-600 people going from here to there to there to there. So if you go for example, an art show, you're pretty much going to see the same people that you see at Merdekarya on a gig night,
right?
And you're pretty much going to see those same people in, for example, a poetry gig,
right?
So the challenge, I think, for not just for us at Merdekarya, but for everyone in the arts, is growing the scene, is to get it out there and get more people to understand that that we exist to begin with.
Okay, so having said that, do you think one of the related challenges is it a matter of getting the word out, as in now in the age of social media it should be more effective, or is it a matter of appreciation that Malaysians are actually a very creative
well, no. I think people appreciate what they want to appreciate. If something appeals to someone, they're going to appreciate it. You can't tell someone to appreciate you. You can't tell someone to support you for the sake of support, just because I'm a local musician and you have some sort of responsibility. I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
I think what we need to do is simply to get people to understand that there's a chance that you would connect more with a local artist, simply because these are the words, these are the stories that are closer to you, both literally and figuratively. By doing that, I think we get more people to understand and appreciate what we do on their own account, not by us telling them that that's what they should do.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind, explaining, on the one hand, is that there's still, you could say, maybe an uphill challenge.
Yep.
That there is the foreign pop culture that Malaysia gets a lot of, and then there's also the local broadcast and their idea of what the cultural scene should look like.
Yep.
So how might you navigate or strategize around these challenges?
Well, you're talking about mass broadcast.
Your satellite TV or your
well,
radios.
I think that's pretty much non-existent because historically, the legislation that covers broadcasting is governed. So you don't have a situation where the arts grow organically. If you look at, for example, the US or the UK or whatever, music grew from little moonshine bars, and they grew from university radio stations, and some guy broadcasting from his basement,
or even the small town radio, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's how. So that is a step, where you start off like that, and then you grow and you grow and you grow and you grow. We've never had that because our airwaves are governed, our venues are governed, and so we've never had a university broadcast or a local, regional, privately owned radio station. So all these things create a situation where there's no one who can go and say, I'm going to take a risk and try and promote or try and put local music out there. Because the just the licensing and the finances are too prohibitive for anyone to take that risk. So for that reason, I think just look at the mass media as non-existent for independent music, because that is the reality that we have to deal with. Online, it's just this huge jungle, right? I mean, you can put something out and you have no clue whether it's gonna happen for you or
it's both the opportunity, yet it's everybody's on board. So
it is. It is. I mean, you can put your stuff on Spotify, but you're competing literally with probably some like 30-40 million other people. So while that's created that opportunity, it's also created this whole mass of information that people, in order to get to you, would have to sift through this whole maze. So the way forward that we think, and I think most musicians are going that route, is to just go out and perform live, and everything's just come full circle, right? Because that's how it started. I mean, everything started in little live venues. So that's the only financially viable way that you can make a living out of this. And so I think that's the route that everyone's going.
Right. I mean, regardless whether you're an indie band or such, you have to start in the process in the step of performing. Okay?
You don't really. I mean, there are people who have a career in music who pretty much never would get on a stage. Who you got your own YouTube channel and just play a ukulele and have a cover of some famous song, or suddenly that explodes. So I mean, there are people who join reality shows and suddenly that they explode, and so there are many different routes, but I think for 99% of us, that route is starting off playing at an open mic at a bar or a cafe.
Okay. One of the things while reading up about Merdekarya was that it's coming into the 6th year, and two things I'll touch on is that one, there was sort of like a criticism or even a comment that says, hey, you're performing to the jago, as in the sense of a jago kampong. Is that the extent of what you're going for? And your shoot back was, no, I am proud to to represent or to help these people.
No, it's not. It's not represent or it's not help. Okay. I think what it is that you see well, it's not just here. I think for pretty much everywhere in the world, everyone wants to be famous worldwide, and the way to do that is to go through the US and become famous in the States, and via that becoming famous worldwide, right? But you see, the what happens when you do that is that your art has to tailor itself to whatever is happening over there at the moment, and then worldwide art becomes generic,
right?
Because everyone's just doing what's the popular thing over there to get famous via there. But I don't think that's what I mean. It doesn't have to. I'm not talking about specifically about music or anything, but any art discipline. It should be an expression of what you see and what you live through, and that only happens where you live, right? I mean, that all your experiences happen from your childhood taman, and from all these guys that you knew in school, and so my take on that is that it's not it's not shameful to be just accepted by your country, by your people, because it's in fact more difficult to be accepted that way, but than by going a generic route and just doing what everyone wants to hear. So a lot of people say that, oh, why aren't our artists recognized globally and things like that? But I think that's not really the point. That if that's the route you want to go, that's fine.
Okay.
But that's not the only way, and that's not that's really not what art should be about. It's not about getting recognized globally. It's about connecting with people. And if you can't connect with the people that you grew up with, how do you expect to connect to the world? Yeah.
So maybe to sort of like put it in a different way. In your case, or in your opinion, it's a matter of being authentic, having authentic expression.
There are so many routes that you can go. I mean, it really depends on what you want to do. If it's fame and fortune that you're after, then cool, go that way. I mean, there's no one way for you to express yourself, or even for you to get to where you're going. I mean, if what you're doing is if you don't want it to be self-expression, if you enjoy the limelight, for example, there's no shame in that either.
Okay.
But what I think is that the issue that I had with that whole Jago Kampung thing was that there's the perception that you're only good if you're recognized globally.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't see that as the case at all. Yeah.
And another thing that I sort of like read up upon was that Merdekarya being coming to its 6th year, it was also you mentioned something like it's a matter of faith that you're still pushing on after so many
it is, because
so many challenges.
You see, the thing is, we know how good the local scene is. We know how good the music is because we listen to them every day.
Yep.
And so we believe that if people could see what we see, then the scene could explode. But the challenge, like I said earlier, is getting people in to just have that habit of wanting to discover something new, wanting to go out, and on the off chance that tonight will be the day that you find a singer or a performer or a songwriter who you connect with. So that's the challenge. The challenge isn't so much the quality. We have faith in the quality. We have faith in the musicians. And so what you need to do is to match that with, with some ingenuity and just getting it out there, trying to get people to understand that this is what we're about. Yeah.
All right. So let's say, so having covered most of your journey from from your early start to getting your skills. One of the things I got a question, one of the things, sort of pulling back to your personal experiences, was craft, the idea of craft. Simply, the first part is that, okay, you've read a lot, you experimented with the writing and also music and songs and even content. What type of measure, metric, or even attitude would it take to build your skills and to build your skills to a set level that you feel comfortable of expressing, or maybe even I'm not too sure. Well, it could be expression, it could be gig, it could be being able to present, or just feeling comfortable that you can do.
I think for different people, it's really quite different, like how you approach things, right? It depends on your objective. It depends on, I don't think there's a generic way to actually go to where you're going. For example, craft. Obviously working on your craft, I mean, just doing it and learning from others and stuff like that's going to help you get to where you want to go. But if that's where you want to go, there are people for whom you have money to begin with,
all right,
and you've got all the necessary support systems and stuff like that, and you come out of school or whatever, and you've already got that base, and the people who have to work for years and years and years and years to get there. There are people who have to work in the day to do whatever they like at night. There are people who can do it almost immediately. The people who have to learn by themselves. The people who have people teach them and all that. There's just so many different routes when it comes to the arts, and I don't think there's any one single way to hone your craft.
I mean, there's no one single way, but at the same time, there's probably maybe a mindset or an objective.
I'm not sure. I mean, you can say that you have to work hard, for example, to get where you're going. But there's so many people who things just fall on your lap. You have connections. You know someone from somewhere, and they give you a grant. Who's to say that this mindset works, this attitude works? If things don't come easy to you, then of course, then you've got to have all those things. But if you've already got, if you come out of school, you've got a huge support system behind you, then it doesn't mean that you have that attitude, you have that same mindset as someone who doesn't have the support system, that you're not going to make it, because it's just the way the world works, man. Some people have a head start, some people don't. Some people can get away with instant fame. Some people have to work their whole lives and never achieve it. It's just how it is.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's say moving. Maybe a bit of projecting forward. Okay. So Merdekarya, again, let's to reiterate that it's reaching its 6th year. Where do you want to take it?
We don't know. It's been 6 years. We're still learning.
Okay.
And every year if you've been here from the first year to the 6th year, you'll see that it's pretty much just changed every year. Every year, we observe how people react to the music, and then we change it to make it more effective, make it easier for the performer on stage to connect with the audience. So we don't have like a 5-year plan or say, well, this is here where we want to be. In 10 years we want a franchise and stuff like that. I think like I mentioned at the beginning of this whole thing, I think the art scene here, especially the independent, it's art scene is pretty much in its infancy, and what we need to do is to learn about it, learn the nature of the beast as we go along, which is what we're doing. So our plan is pretty much for next month, and to see what happens next month, and then react to what happens next month, and then we'll do that the month after that, and we'll do that the month after that. And that's pretty much how we see ourselves going forward. That's pretty much how we have been going forward from day one. I can't tell you that we have a 5-year plan or a 2-year plan.
Okay. Right. And for the bands, and for the people who come to perform at your space, what do you see in them, and what do you hope they will get out of it?
Well, I think
maybe what do they hope they will receive?
Well, I think for each individual musician, it's they have different expectations of themselves, right? Because everyone does it for different reasons. Some people do it for the crowd applause. Some people do it. They've been doing it for so long that they now feel that it's time to get back from it. Financially, different people do it for different reasons. Our only hope is that we can provide enough of an audience for them to achieve or gain whatever to meet whatever expectations that they might have. So I think our responsibility, as I mentioned earlier, is to keep growing a crowd, keep trying to get acceptance and awareness for local independent music.
So in the sense that it's both about the space and it's also about maybe a curation or a space or encouragement, but definitely to try and grow the scene.
Definitely. I mean, the only way that any of this can be viable is for the scene to grow.
Right.
So I think that responsibility falls on all of us. I mean, the musicians and the venues and people in the art scene, because no one's gonna. In the last budget there was like nothing for the arts, and they said, well, the country is broke and we don't really have the budget for it. So it's like, yeah, well, okay, you never had a budget for it anyway. So we're on our own. I think we know that we're not going to get a huge support system out there, but I think there is visible growth. Not as fast as we want it to be, but there is visible growth. And so I think what we do is we keep going and we see where we end up.
Okay. So if you don't mind, I will sort of like get into the closing side of the show.
Sure.
Okay. And I've got 3 questions for you. 3 questions, and it starts with, for those who have the idea, okay, and to go into a creative work, be it writing or media or music, what advice might you have for them?
Not really a fan of generic advice, because like I said, everyone has their own journey. You can say reach for the stars and never give up. But that's the thing. I mean, it's presumptuous to say, if this is your dream, then you should really go for it, because there are many people who say would have made a great artist or would have made a great musician or a great writer, who stuck with their job being a teacher, right, or a clerk or something, because they have a family to feed, or something like that, and they give up on those dreams. But it's not, it's presumptuous to say that, oh, you gave up on your dream and you should have followed your heart and this and that and whatever. People have different roots. People have different priorities at different times in their lives. If the arts is something that you want to pursue, and you have the means to do it, and you have the energy to do it, and you want to see where that takes you, by all means do it. If it's not working out for you, that's fine. It's not. There's no shame in for example, taking care of your priorities, your aged parent, or your priority is your family, or even that you want to be financially stable. That's cool as well. If you choose the arts, I think if you don't have the means to begin with, then it's going to be a tough journey, and you have to understand that it's going to be a tough journey, and you have to understand what you're in for,
right,
for all of those years.
Well, that is the purpose of Plusma-cast, in order to provide this sort of awareness.
Yep. Cool. I mean, because the thing is, you understand that that's what you're getting into, but then again, like I said, when you just say, dispense with advice like that, it doesn't apply to everyone, because, like I said, some people haven't come into the art scene with a huge support system, so it's different things apply to different people, and that's how it is.
Okay. Well, the next one is for those who, they've got the idea, be it inspiration or be it encouragement, then they want to take it into skills. So in your route, it's very informal that it was self-instructed.
Yeah.
But for again, for people who want to start developing skills, taking their idea into skills, what might you have in terms of advice, if that's
Well, the thing is like back then there was mm, the only way you could get, for example, an education in music is to have a music teacher.
Yeah.
If you have a friend who's has the time to teach you this and that. Now you pretty much just switch on your computer and you have tutorials and there's a whole bunch of things that you can just get for free. So there's so much more opportunities now. There's so many different ways for you to develop your skill, to develop your craft. The only real way, in my opinion, is that you just go out and do it. You learn from your mistakes, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. That's just what skill is. But like I said, I mean, there's just it's so much easier for you to get better at what you're doing now, because there's just so much information out there that you can access at your fingertips.
All right. Okay. And for those who they've got they've turned their idea into skills, and then to apply those skills, like maybe gigs or maybe projects or maybe work. What advice might you have for those starting out, saying, okay, I should be ready. How do I do this?
Again, just go make mistakes and learn from it, or don't make mistakes and immediately become successful. Once again, like I'm saying, like early on, to develop your skills, there's a whole mass of information online. But to apply your skills as well, there's this whole ecosystem that was never there before. There are more venues than ever before, catering to independent music and musicians.
Right.
There are more art galleries. There are more people getting into film. There's the whole short film scene. There's the independent movie scene. There's the normal route, which is the mainstream scene. What else? There are comedy clubs now.
Yeah.
Never used to be any such thing. There were like
15 years ago. No such.
Well,
Right?
you would have to go for a specific like theater, like Instant Cafe show, but then you didn't have like a specific stand-up comedy club.
Right.
Now you've got, I think, 3, 4 already in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Because when we started, the comics used to come here and perform, and it was like a music place, and you've got like 1 or 2 stand-up comedians. But then now you've got a whole scene by itself. So both virtually and in reality, there's simply so many more avenues for you than there ever was before. So it's really just up to you whether you want to take advantage of that, and whether you want to go out there, hone your skills and get better at what you do, and try and make something of it.
Right. Okay. So, in short, there's also there's both the opportunity, but also the need to take your own action, regardless of what form it may be.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that's true in pretty much everything.
Okay.
In the arts and everything else.
Okay.
Your own initiative is as important as the opportunities that are there. Even if there weren't opportunities, then pretty much your initiative ought to be creating that opportunity for yourself. So yeah, of course, that's goes without saying.
Okay, and last, just to close out the show,
Sure.
is there any final word or advice, or even self-promotion that you'd like to have?
I think what I would like to close with is not so much for people in the arts community, but for people outside of the arts community who have the perception that, and it is a prevalent perception, that the local art scene isn't as good as
International.
and what you watch on you go look like Avengers or something and say, well, wow, look at this, and so you say, well, there's nothing. I think the reason that you should go out and discover local art is not because you have some sort of patriotic responsibility towards local art. I think the reason why you should go out and discover is because you might find that it connects with you a lot more than your current Netflix favorite show, simply because these are the stories of your neighbors. These are the stories of your brothers and your sisters and your your colleagues, and these are the stories that are born of the same situations that you find yourself in and you found yourself growing up in, and so it's likely that these are the stories that will resonate with you more, and that is why. I'm not saying if you go out on any particular day, you're going to find that one person and he's going to be like, well, that's the music that appeals to me. It's not. I mean, it's going to take some time. You're going to have to go and make your rounds and look. But it's likely that you will find art that appeals to you a lot more than something that has been mass produced for a generic worldwide audience.
Okay. All right. And with that, I close out the show. You've been watching another episode of Plusma-cast, again, featuring Brian Gomez of Merdekarya, multi-talented and multi-skilled man who is very much trying to encourage the music scene, the local music scene here in the Klang Valley, Malaysia. So again, I'm Min Paul. Thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you in another episode. And one final, if you want to know more about Brian, you can find the details of Merdekarya and
Merdekarya.com.
And other means of getting in touch at the end slide and in the description and in the video description. So thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Thank you.